this may be a premium episode, but it might not be. The 2021 schedule has been very improvised as we've been going along. If it is, then hey, you'll never hear this part at all. Edit it out. Done. But if it isn't, then consider this a fun little bonus you can normally get at patreon.com/WSScastProductions. For less than the cost of a re-election during an alien invasion/pandemic, you can support our show. It's exclusive content, early access, and bonus episodes, like this one, just for you. Why wouldn't you want to get a deal like that? Again, patreon.com/WSScastProductions. Enjoy the show. Praise Jesus. That's fucking pushing it. This shit's about as far from God as you can get. Welcome to the After Credits Cast, the only film podcast to infect you with the love of film, comedy, and the Iowa Film Critics Association. There can only be one. I'm your host and champion, Aaron J. Waseska, and I'm joined by my good co-host, Ryan Metters.
I will be your herald to sing the praises of this organization where we go.
Indeed, indeed. Speaking of singing, we have an intro song for this week. It is Every Woman in the World by Air Supply.
That makes sense. That fits.
Almost too good. You can follow us on your platform of choice down below. That includes Patreon, YouTube, Acast, Google and Apple Podcast, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, all that stuff. Apple Podcast Addict, yeah, all those. Google us. You can find us much more easily than certain other organizations, I guarantee you. And if you want to follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook, we also have pages there you can follow us on. Again, very easy to find us. And if you want to email us directly for your challenges to the throne, or just to say, hey, this movie looks really good, Ryan, where can they email us at?
They can email us at stdcuddlepuddle at excuse me. Sorry. That's evacstation at gmail.com.
Absolutely. I love it. Love it. So, Ryan, we had a very weird 2020 and a very weird 2021. Our schedules just didn't make any sense, and movies got delayed. And so, for this month, the new release we wanted to cover was going to be The Suicide Squad, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. We've already done all the DC movies that we want to do for now. Obviously, we'll go back and do old Batman stuff, we'll do old Superman stuff at some point, maybe, if the show lasts that long. But what do we do for Suicide Squad? There's only one other Suicide Squad, and no, we've already done the animated Suicide Squad, and no, we're not going to do the other animated Suicide Squad. We don't have time for that. So I thought to myself when making this, hey, let's do a little mini-series all about the short list of James Gunn films. I mean, he's a great actor. He's a great and talented director. But, you know, have you seen a lot of his stuff? I don't think I have.
Yeah, the original movie that I thought I had seen that was first of his was, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, not his first, though, to be sure. So I thought, why not start this month off with his, I guess, sort of debut picture? I mean, I guess he did Tromeo stuff, but this is like his first one outside of that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think this is his first full feature-length film as a director.
Yep. And that would be 2006's Slither. Written and directed by James Gunn. No surprise there. This film was not a financial success, bringing in only $12 million, which is short of, well, breaking even at all.
And while I had a blast with this, I absolutely understand why this happened.
Mm-hmm. And we'll dive into...
We'll talk about that
We'll dive into that in a little bit, but yeah, there's definitely a conversation there. This did win 2 awards, though. A Saturn Award for Best Makeup, which it deserved. It was really good. And a Chainsaw Award for the highest body counts.
Oh my god, I love this. I actually brought this up with Allegra, too. That's hilarious.
Yep. I'm already looking forward to this. This is going to be a fun one. Ryan, I got some fun facts. Or you got some fun facts. What do you have for fun facts?
Well, you've got the cast first.
Oh, shit. Did I already pass over that? My bad. I just scrolled through this list so quick. There was a cast. There are people in this movie, surprisingly. They include Don Thompson, Zach Ludwig, Brenda James, Jennifer Copping, Haig Sutherland, Dustin Milligan, Xantha Radley, Greg Henry, Tanya Solnier, Michael Rooker, Elizabeth Banks, and Captain Hammer himself, Nathan Fillion.
Fantastic. This is absolutely a Nathan Fillion role, 100%.
And I'm not gonna lie, I was getting some very Star-Lord vibes from, like, not, like, full-on Star-Lord, but, like, I could see the early versions of Star-Lord in him a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to, Jenna Fisher, who I believe is one of your fun facts, but she's in this movie as well.
Yeah, the fact that I got to see small town hick Pam Beasley was mwah, oh my god.
That was a fun little treat.
All right. Well, since you've led me into it, here are 3 fun facts before we get into the synopsis here. Gunn had originally scripted the infection of the 2 little Stuttmeyer girls to partially appear on screen, but he decided against showing it. Gunn explained, "It was one of the things the producers really didn't want me to show. Especially in Europe, they're very touchy about children being killed." Fun fact within the fun fact, this is one of the things I mentioned to Allegra about even James Gunn knowing when too much is too much. But he says, "I'm really glad I didn't do it because the experience of these worms entering people's mouths is quite sexual in certain ways." You don't fucking say, James. And it's difficult to watch. To do it with a child would have been too much. Yes. I'm glad someone pulled him back.
I'm glad he's self-aware to realize that, yeah, you know what? That's not a good idea.
It's like, I'm looking to crumble the envelope rather than push it, but even I know, okay, that'd be too rough. Next up, Jenna Fisher disclosed on a television talk show that she got the role of Shelby as a birthday present from her spouse, James Gunn, after another actress dropped out of the movie. Being a big fan of zombie films, she always wanted to play a zombie. Upon hearing the news, she screamed with joy, which is what I'm doing internally, knowing that Jenna Fisher is married to James Gunn. I'm sorry?
I don't think they still are, but they were when this came out, yes.
Oh my man, okay, I can't look this up right now. But okay, that's brilliant news to me. All right. Last fun fact. Air Supply's "Every Woman in the World" was written into the script as Mr. and Mrs. Grant's love song. Fillion asked why, and Gunn says, "Frankly, I find it creepy." He explains why, but then backpedals a bit, saying, "I like the song. I'm not saying I don't like the song. It's not my type of music, but I really do like the song." Incidentally, "Every Woman in the World" was released in 1980, 2 years after Shaka Khan's iconic disco anthem, "I'm Every Woman," which wound up becoming the Oprah Winfrey Show theme song and having a much longer shelf life. Most people, in fact, think Air Supply's song is a ripoff of, or surely inspired by, the Shaka Khan hit, since the lyrics are almost identical.
So to answer your previous question, they divorced or they split in 2008, so 2 years after this movie.
Oh.
Yeah. But since it was amicable, they were both pretty much, okay with it, and they've both moved on since, so yeah, good for them.
Yeah. But yeah, it was truly a treat to see Pam just over here being a zombie. I'm like, what are you doing over there, Pam? Stop.
I'm just a little happier to find out that she's like always wanted to be, has always been a fan of zombie movies and wants to play one. Like, that just seems like a cute thing that for an actor to want to do. Like, just, you have your bucket list of like roles you'd like to do, and just that is one of them. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, that's honestly cool. That's super duper cool. Plus, I think like her success as an actress, particularly in The Office, really kind of shines a light on this as well, because as you're watching this random fucking James Gunn movie, seeing Pam from The Office is just like a little beacon of joy in an already really fun movie.
Well, and you're also getting Nathan Fillion, you're getting fucking Mary Poppins, y'all in here, and all that stuff. Like, it's fun. There's so many good people here. Like, you could tell everyone had a good time with it. Like, this is what I'm here for. This is.
Yeah, this is one of those where you could tell people were having a fucking blast doing this shit.
Initial thoughts, of course, real quick. This movie feels very much like a James Gunn movie. Like, not even gonna argue that one. Like, from pretty much the first 10 minutes or so, it feels like a movie he made. I didn't think it would be being such an early film though, because I figured he still had yet to find his voice, so get into it. But I guess when you think about it, like you said, with all the Tromeo stuff he did prior to this, yeah, he probably figured out what his voice was then, and then he finally got a budget and some time to make a big picture, and here it is, finally on full display, and it's him. Uh, yeah, and knowing the subject matter and the grosser aspects of this film, I didn't think it was going to be as much fun as it was, but I had a blast with it.
Yeah, yeah. So before I give my initial thoughts, was this the first time you've seen
It
this
is,
movie?
yes.
Nice. Okay. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I actually had to show the trailer to my wife because I'm like, hey, do you want to watch this with me? I show it to her, and she's like, this looks like stupid. This looks like a very dumb B movie horror. I'm in. Let's do it. Because you can.
Okay, so we both got to do a date night with this movie.
A little bit,
that.
yeah.
I absolutely love that. Oh my god. Well, okay, so I originally saw this movie when I was a late teenager, like 17, 18 years old. I was not aware of James Gunn back then, so the name didn't strike out to me. This was actually the first time me realizing that this was a James Gunn film. Like you, it absolutely feels like a James Gunn film originally. But moreover, I found myself thinking a couple of years back when James Gunn was getting into all that controversy over like really old stuff that he had done, but that was like pushing the limits of like what was acceptable entertainment and like comedy and whatnot. And that's what this movie feels like to me. I think it's hilarious. I think it's an absolute blast and a really good time. But I also think it's him trying to find the edge of people's levels of uncomfort and what they are willing to watch while being thoroughly entertained. I feel like this movie likes to dance on the edge of amazingly gross and just pure fucking comedy, and it just keeps you right there where you find yourself retching a couple of times, but everything else is just making you laugh like the hardest ever, and so it just keeps you right on that razor thin edge. And I love it. I don't think I'm gonna watch it again for another like 10 years, but I think it's amazing, and I think it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. And we'll get to the end, but this is, if you like James Gunn, give this a look. This is actually pretty fun. Ryan, are you ready for my synopsis?
I'm ready. Oh my god.
We set our story in the small redneck town of somewhere. Days.
Wheelie.
I remember that after I wrote it, but then I'm like, it's just saying somewhere is more fun.
Sorry.
Days just before their annual deer hunting festival, nothing screams small town white trash like an entire festival dedicated to the hunting and killing of a deer. On the night before the festivities, a meteor crashes down into a nearby forest. Eventually, one Grant, Gigi, stumbles across this on a night just before he considers having an extramarital affair. Inside the meteor is some kind of weird alien thing that infects him, and thus our story begins. Gigi starts acting weird, buying copious amounts of raw meat, staring at his wife in a creepy way, and slaughtering nearby farm animals, pets, and the like. His wife, Starla, starts getting suspicious, especially when he doesn't show up for the deer murder party, so she breaks into his secret basement room to find the heads and bodies of all sorts of dead animals. Starla calls the cops just as Gigi arrives to infect her with his new alien tentacles. Cops show up just in time to save her. A local woman has gone missing, last seen with Gigi. Of course, this is also the woman he has nearly had an affair with, and is now infected by Gigi to host a literal swarm of slug creatures. These slug creatures burst out as soon as the cops and Starla find Brenda. They swarm all over the town and infect any unsuspecting person who is not wearing a mask or covering their mouth in some fashion. Remember, social distancing. The town has now become some kind of zombie hive mind controlled by Gigi, who is controlled seemingly by something else. We don't really get the details on that. Only Starla, Chief Party, the mayor, and one Kylie Strutemeyer managed to avoid infection. The mayor is a dick, so he dies eventually, and it was quite cathartic. Starla, I almost called her Carla. Starla gets abducted by the slug zombies and is brought to Jabba Gigi. She tries to convince him she still loves him, even though he's a monster. long enough for Officer Purdy to save the day, but doesn't quite go as planned, and he improvises with a propane tank. It explodes and kills Jabba Gigi. The 3 remaining survivors watch the slug zombies die off one by one. They leave town because fuck this noise, and that's the movie.
Yep, that was it. That was in fact the movie.
Yep. Okay, so before I get to the questions, Ryan, what do you think overall? Good?
Yes. I ultimately think it's very good. I think it steers into certain stereotypes of rural American living. Yeah. And but it plays off of them in fun and hilarious ways. And I also think it's a lot wittier than it had credit to be, which is fantastic. And it has to keep like a high level of comedy to balance out the body horror.
Yeah, that body horror is pretty gross. It's kind of like almost on the same level, maybe worse than The Thing or Remember, haven't done a lot of body horror, so like I guess Raw is the only other one I could think of, and I think that one's a bit grosser because it feels a little bit more real.
Yeah. I think that's actually one of the really smart decisions, or one of like several very smart decisions about the movie, because the concept of body horror is automatically uncomfortable. If you have any level of empathy, like there's going to be a small part of your brain that imagines it happening to you, and then it's just going to make you extra uncomfortable. So it has to kind of balance out the visceral nature of the horror that he wants to show with comedy and laughs, and so like I think they do a really, really good balancing act, to the point where he's able to push the limit as far as he does because of how funny it is.
Absolutely, and so it's a
if it's too serious, then it's just you have people walking out of the theater.
Well, so I'm going to jump down to this question because it kind of hits the this discussion point in the head. So this is obviously a horror movie and also a comedy movie. There's not a lot of those, but the ones there are, like Cabin in the Woods is a good example, have a very unique blend, and they try very hard to balance that out, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So I guess my question is, do you think there's something inherently flawed with a horror comedy film? Is it possible to strike that balance between its tones? And does this film do it or come close to it?
I don't think there's a flaw inherent in horror comedy. I think this is a really good question. I actually really, really like this.
Well,
question.
The reason I ask is because I read an interview or read something, an interview that James Gunn had done, and he had, or someone involved with the production, and they said that they think the reason this was a commercial failure is because it's really hard to promote a horror comedy because it's two very distinct genres, and not everyone's going to be all in on one or the other, and the one and the other.
Yes. Okay, that I definitely agree with. I can absolutely see that from a marketing standpoint, horror comedy is a hard sell. I get that. I think as a medium, as a form of entertainment, though, it's not flawed. I think a lot of good comedy, or at least this is my personal opinion, but a lot of good comedy has a degree of self-awareness to it, and like typical schlocky B-movie horror films have a lack thereof. And so it's kind of trying to look left and right at the same time, because you have situations that happen that are just utterly ridiculous and would not make sense for any rational person to be caught in. But at the same time, like, fun, witty comedy involves people being aware of that shit. I think Cabin in the Woods did so great because it leaned into the idea that normal modern people with more than 4 brain cells would not be caught in these fucking situations, and so extra measures have to be taken to force people in that situation. And just kind of being able to look at it from an outside perspective kind of makes it even more funny. In spite of the characters being in danger, it's still hilarious because there's a part of you that realizes how ridiculous this shit is. And so I think Slither does a similar thing as well, because you have these rural people encountering an alien invasion, and there are moments where people just pause because the situation is so fucking outlandish that it's just like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't happening. No, this can't actually be a thing. And I love that it's self-referential in that. It doesn't take away from the danger that character is in, but that character is present enough to realize that this is so fucking removed from real life that it's just like, I've got to be in a movie for a hot second. It all it's missing is Jim looking at the camera like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? Really?
I think the other thing to consider too is like I said, the main issue is marketing, but I think the other thing too is that certain horrors lend better to the comedy genre. If you're going for like your absolute cosmic horror, Cthulhu, alien invasion stuff, I think that's pretty easy to do and still keep the spooky stuff spooky, because reacting to some of that stuff is like completely out there. Like, no one's ever experienced it, so you can kind of have fun with it. Other things, like I would say, like serial killers and stuff, you've got to tread that line a little carefully, because if you do so, it makes a serial killer just seem like a joke, and then you kind of lose the horror aspect of your movie, so you can't go too far with it. I think the Nightmare on Elm Street movies give a pretty good example, because he starts off pretty damn intimidating just because of his abilities alone, but he ends up becoming kind of a lame joke after a while because he just keeps shooting off the stupidest one-liners throughout the entire series. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, so we kind of tipped the boat too far one way over the other, you know? So yeah, there's definitely a balance being done, and I think films like this, like Cabin in the Woods, and even to a lesser extent, Get Out, I don't think it's funny all the time. I don't think it's trying to be funny all the time, but it certainly does have elements of comedy, because Jordan Peele is also a comedian writer.
Right.
So you have elements of it in there. I think these three movies strike a balance, and like I said, it depends on the subject matter and what they're shooting for. I think all three of them knew what their thesis was, and like, okay, let's build our horror and our comedy around that and see where the balance really hits. So.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point that you're making. And just to kind of go back to like the idea of like the characters almost being like self-aware enough to like comment on like the most ridiculous shit about this. Like, one moment that kind of stands out to me is Nathan Fillion seeing that the townsfolk are like joining themselves to Grant towards the end of it, in which Allegra, and I have to give credit to this joke, but as Allegra called it, an STD cuddle party, a cuddle puddle. But just like the idea of them like laying into each other and then like actually melting, and you see like that one guy's like the corner of his mouth starts to stretch because you can tell that he's becoming fastened to the blob. Like, it's so gross and so like and gut-wrenching, and then you go to Nathan Fillion just deadpan staring at it and saying, well, now that is some fucked up shit.
Yep.
It's the pairing of the two. Like, if you just leave it with, oh, these normally nice people have had their wills robbed of them and are now melding their bodies into this alien life form, and yeah, that's what's happening. if you don't cut that with comedy, like your whole mental state going into like the climax of the movie is horrible. It's terrible because this is god awful. So being able to kind of juxtapose the two really works if you do it well, and I think in this movie it's done very, very well. The only thing is that in comparison to Cabin in the Woods, which I felt ultimately was trying to be a comedy movie with a lot of horror elements, and so they used the comedy to accentuate they used the horror to accentuate the comedy. I feel like this movie was really trying to see how far they could take the body horror without people leaving. And so I feel like the horror aspect is more focused on, and I feel like that's kind of why it didn't do as well. Not only because it's hard to market, but because at the end of the day, like one of the ending shots of the movie is Nathan Fillion pressing a wound in his abdomen, and something that looks remarkably like semen is spilling out of it, and I'm like, ah! Ooh, that's almost too far. That's almost too far. What are you doing?
Yeah, there's definitely moments in this film that make you look away, but there's so many fun things just to enjoy that it's hard to stay looking away, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, it's so entertaining that you keep watching throughout the moments where you normally would be like, that's too fucking gross.
Speaking of things that are...
This shit is amazing. This is actually a really interesting movie. I'm sorry. This is really fun for me.
Well, speaking of things that are interesting and also kind of gross, Ryan, how do you feel, or how do the relationships in this film give us a window into the rationalizations in a toxic relationship? And how do the events in this film show one escaping from said toxicity?
Oh my god. I feel like you tried to couch that into a segue, but it felt so removed from what I was just saying.
Maybe.
It's fine. In terms of toxic relationships, I mean, I think it's an interesting look into what, like, a realistic thing happening, like that can happen anywhere really, but primarily could happen in rural America. You know, the concept of marrying someone for like pretty much strictly for financial stability, and
I mean, I think it's happened. That could happen just about anywhere, honestly.
Yeah, that happens just about anywhere. Like, definitely, absolutely, but I think it takes it in a weird direction because while it seems kind of obvious the reason why she married him, it also seems apparent that she's like she wants to make it work because she believed in the vow that she took, and because she was thankful for all of the things that he had done for her. And so there was a level of care and affection which kind of made it it made it more rational for her to stay when she obviously was not happy. It kind of says something if the happiest you felt with your husband was the day after he was taken over by an alien parasite. That kind of speaks volumes, like, in reality here. So I don't know. Like, honestly, there's a part of me that it feels toxic, but it doesn't. And I feel bad saying that. It feels like it straddles a line because people, like, there's, or at least from the brief glimpse that we get of their relationship before everything goes to hell, it feels like she got in the situation willingly, and there is some care that she has for him.
See,
but it also feels bad. I don't know. What do you
Well,
think?
so I don't think you can. I don't think a toxic relationship is void of people caring. I think you get into the relationship because you care, and so you stay into it because you care. I don't think it's so much that she. I don't think it's so much. I don't think a toxic relationship is something that no one cares about because obviously you stick around because you can rationalize your investment into it. It's a sunk cost fallacy almost.
Mm.
She's invested so much time into it, and she has had good moments, but they're so few and far between. But when the good moments happen, it it has her brain just wash away all the bad things. Like, well, this one thing just proves that he's good, so I can stick around and keep doing this and enjoy it. Because how many nights? I mean, he even says himself, it's been a long time since they've actually had, intercourse and stuff, and he makes his whole big spiel about it, and everything gets really upset about it. But it's like, if you care about her and she says no, you're like, okay, then I guess I'll just go to sleep or whatever. You give her space and let her do her thing. You don't get upset and make a huge fucking deal out of it because that's not what you do. um, but yeah, so getting a glimpse of that and seeing how she backpedals when just a brief good moment happens and then tries to overlook all the bad things and tries to make excuses for him, like, oh no, it couldn't have been him. It had to have been something that looked like him. One of the weirdest defenses of anything ever. Yeah, I don't know. Just that window. So I've always questioned toxic relationships, like why people stick with them, and I think that gives me a fictionalized but pretty solid view of like how that works. Because I mean, you see relationships like Joker and Harley Quinn, super exaggerated, super crazy. So not a great example of like why, but you get to at least see the damages that can be caused by it. This feels a bit more grounded and realistic until the aliens happen, and yeah, I feel like this is a good example of the kind of things you would probably see in a toxic relationship, or at least a borderline toxic relationship. As for how she gets out of it, well, the fact that he's removed from the situation and she's kind of allowed to be free, be on her own, and make decisions for herself without him being around. I think that kind of helps helps her sort of feel more confident and fulfilled with her, or more confident in herself and more self-fulfilling, where she is able to step up and take actions and eventually leave to do what she wants to do.
Yeah, I do agree. I just think it's interesting that it's never the actions of Grant that ultimately push her into, like making the move because it's gone on long enough, but rather like when she sees that he's become essentially an STD orgy, it's just like, all right, well, there's no saving him now. That's it. We just got to put him out of his misery at this point. Like, so it's never that she sees the error of starting the relationship, or she never comes face to face with how toxic the relationship is and leaves for that reason. Like, literally, she ends up leaving because he becomes the host of an alien disease.
Well, there's even a part of it too, like right when she finds out what happens and before they go to face the zombie hordes and stuff. Isn't there like a section where she's even kind of blaming herself a little bit for what happened?
Yeah, because she saw the signs beforehand and didn't do anything about it, or like believed his lies about
Well, it's
it.
one of those things.
So yeah, I think that definitely goes into what you were saying as well.
So it's an interesting glimpse, and I wouldn't mind seeing a movie that dives into that aspect further, but that's not this movie, so we'll have to save that for another time, hopefully. I'll skip this next one. Let's see. So Ryan, the way the slugs the way to keep slugs from taking you over is to put something over your mouth. How does this sentiment reign in a post-COVID world?
Wear your fucking mask, you dumbasses.
I loved when we watched this. I turned to him and I'm like, so this movie was basically a COVID warning, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's like, well, I can't see it, so obviously masks don't do shit. And then they join the cuddle puddle over there. It's like, oh god. It's like the sheriff's department is encroaching on my freedom. Asked me to wear a mask. Like, there are alien slugs that are going to kill you if you don't. I don't care, I've never seen one. The moment they see one is the moment they die. Like, come on, guys. Please.
Well, and speaking of the slugs, to James Gunn's comments earlier regarding the quote-unquote sexual nature of the slugs, does this film seem to be making a comment on rape culture? I say this because the aliens' way of taking over and such is eerily similar to how the facehuggers do things. Not actually 1-to-1, but they're very much in the same, school, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think that's more like, I don't really know if I would say it's a comment on rape culture, but I feel like it's another aspect of body horror and another way that James Gunn really pushes the envelope in terms of horror, like adding a sexual adding a sexual element to any form of horror feels like sexual assault because it is. And so it gets real uncomfortable real fast. And so I feel like that's one of the reasons why they couldn't do that to the kids.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why you only see the single baby in this movie. You just see Grant look at it, and that's it. Can't do anything to the baby. You only see the two, 10-year-old girls, convulsing just to show that they've been taken over. And eventually you see them as, funny zombies. It's family fun day! Like that stuff can be cartoon, can be, made into a cartoon-esque situation, and you can have fun with it. But to see something penetrate, nah, we can't do all of that. So there's a very sexual element to the monsters, and I think it's one of the ways that James Gunn pushes the envelope in uncomfortable directions.
Yeah, that's a very fair way to put it. Brian, how would you react to seeing these creatures crawling around on the street coming at you, and do you think you would survive an encounter with them?
Oh shit. If it's just the worms taking over, I'd like to think I could survive, because I'd like to hope that I wasn't one of the first ones getting caught, in which case I'm seeing that they're going through mouths and I can try to close my mouth quickly. If people have already been zombified, it's gonna absolutely be tougher. And Allegra actually brought up a really good point, because there's the whole idea of surviving a zombie apocalypse is one thing, because they're mindless abominations.
But this is a hive mind,
right? And it's more even worse. It's a hive mind that takes from the memories of everybody it's consumed. So you have zombies drawing on the memories of their host and using them to mentally fuck with you. That's terrifying. I don't want to be here anymore if that's the case. I'm out. Get me on the nearest plane. I have to go home.
Well, Ryan, you would be home when it happens.
No, I have to leave. I have to be elsewhere than home then. I have to be away from my home now.
But no, I definitely agree. I think I would like to think that I'm smart enough to not open my mouth and scream when I see creatures like that. I might just go, "What?" But then cover my mouth right away, because I'm I would see them trying to do that. Hopefully, I wouldn't be just slack jawed oh, I'll just try to lick one of these things.
You'd have a lot of me going,
do you think,
and just trying to keep my mouth closed as much as possible.
Do you think the COVID mask would do anything? Do you think that would deter them?
No. No.
Well, I'm only asking this because my other question would be, if they can't get into your mouth, can they go in anywhere else? Or is the mouth the only thing that they're going to try to get into?
I think. I think James Gunn also made a very conscious decision during the bath scene, because you have the girl completely naked in the bathtub and you have the slug swimming. There is absolutely an orifice that they passed that they could have gone through, but even James Gunn knew that would be too far.
Fair enough. I just wanted to make sure, for clarity's sake, like, would my butt be safe?
Yeah, I think so. I think the bath scene is tacit admission that he's just like, no, we're not. We are not having alien slugs rape people. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing in this movie. We're still trying to keep it fun, guys. We're still trying to keep it laughing.
I mean, technically we are. We're just not saying it. But okay.
Yeah.
What aspects of James Gunn's films did you notice watching this movie, and how has his work improved since making this?
I love his use of wit in the face of ridiculous situations.
Mm-hmm.
I think here it's very blatant and in your face, because the wit is sharp and it's punchy, but it has to be that way to keep up with like the high levels of body horror that's being done. You see it also happening in Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's definitely more toned down. It's still very witty and very funny, and it's kind of self-referential, or like self-aware, I should say, in terms of just like kind of addressing the ridiculousness of the situation that you're in. And so I feel like he kind of fine-tuned it, moving on past this work. Like here you kind of see it like dialed to 11. In his future works, he kind of pares it down to a more razor's edge.
The other thing I noticed too is his emphasis on music. Like, it's not super huge here, but I saw a tweet earlier this week that he answered a question about how he chooses his music and all that for the Guardians movies, and he says point blank, when he made the Guardians movies, he wrote them with the songs in mind, and he filmed the scenes with the music playing, and he had the actors reacting to them like live on on set. And I think
nice.
I think the same kind of thing happened here, and so I kind of appreciate that. That's always been his style. Like, hey, if this music's going to be in the movie, it's gonna fucking be in the movie the way it's supposed to be. And because it plays a fairly big role in this film, because it's their song. It's the song that the two of them, have a moment to. In Guardians of the Galaxy, that is in the entire identity of Star-Lord. So I mean, it's just kind of a nice thing to see that that's been a continuous thing from the get-go.
Definitely. I like that call out.
Let's see. Final question: do you want to see more horror movies from James Gunn, and do you want to see more from the world of Slither?
Oh man! Oh god! I do and I don't. I do and I don't, because I think James Gunn can handle the balance between horror comedy really, really well, and I would love to see another like spin or another like take on a popular horror like subgenre and see what James Gunn does to it to have some fun with it. But at the same time, I don't ever want to see him push the envelope like this ever again, because this was rough. Allegra was like, "Don't you want to like we're getting remakes and like long sequels to shit all the time. Don't you want to see Slither 2 in 2026?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I don't want to see this at all, because if I'm uncomfortable watching Slither like 15 years removed, I don't even want to imagine how far he wants to press it for the sequel. I don't want to see it. I do want to see it, but I don't want to see it. So yes and no is my answer.
So I will say, I think Slither being one and done is perfectly fine. I think it tells a great story. It's fun. It's goofy. it had its moment. I don't think I need to see any more from the world of Slither.
Yeah.
But I would love to see him tackle a different kind of horror movie or a different genre or something, because I think horror is a fun genre to play in because you can do all sorts of weird stuff with it, and when you're willing to dip your toes into the other elements like comedy or drama or whatever, you can really sell a damn good horror movie. And I think James Gunn, with the clout he's received, with the budget he can definitely command, and with the talent he's got, he could probably take it and spin it something like this and fucking make bank. I guarantee it.
I agree. Honestly, I very much agree. I think he's got enough. I think he's got enough clout and backing behind him now that if he wanted to just do this as a passion project, he would drum up revenue just because it's James Gunn. To be quite honest, and the fact that he wouldn't be tied behind executives and like huge comic book properties, which are the hot commodity in Hollywood right now. The fact that he wouldn't have those restrictions and would just be able to be James Gunn in full, I think we definitely get something special.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's that kind of logic that allowed Suicide Squad to happen in the first place, because he was kind of a controversial name at that time, and then Warner Brothers was like, oh, we'll take him. We'll see what he can do. I think the likely success of Suicide Squad, because let me just tell you right now, it's gonna sell. It's gonna do well because his name's attached to it. Every other DC property has been very hit or miss. I think just because his name's on it, it's gonna give them the fair shake to at least make people wanting to give it a try.
I think so too. I think the hiring of James Gunn for the Suicide Squad was a great way to drum up interest in it in the midst of all the controversy. And then the first couple of trailers and sneak peeks, not only showing a wide cast of characters that they're going to have fun with, but that kind of typical James Gunn, like, zany, like, shooting style and story behind it. It showed that James Gunn wasn't there just for show. Like, the comedic brilliance in that man is also being applied to this movie, and so you're kind of showing the proof in the pudding with those couple of trailers. So yeah, I absolutely think Suicide Squad is going to sell like gangbusters, but I also think it's going to be really, really
Oh
good.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to it. And if you are looking forward to it too, you can reach out to us on Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook and tell us how excited you are and what other movies we should check out. And tell us what you think of Slither. Did you have fun with it? Did you not have fun with it? I want to know, because I thought it was a good time. I thought it was fun. Ryan, if they want to email us directly, where could they email their thoughts and opinions and their challenges to the throne at?
They can email us at Captain Hammer Bukake at... Excuse me. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. We're going to get censored for that. No, that's evacstation at gmail.com.
I debate whether I want to edit a censor beep in there or not now. Dude, I don't know if you went back to listen to any of the Godzilla episodes. I had to spend so much time finding every time we said Godzilla or King Kong by accident and putting the censor beep in there. It was maddening, but it was fun.
I mean, it was obviously Nicole's fault.
Mostly. This is the part of the show where we rank the episode from platinum to trash and all the colors in between. Ryan, how are we going to rank Slither?
I have no fucking idea. I have no idea.
Normally, a horror movie falls into our bucket or fuck it method. We're not technically in the Halloween season, so we're not going to do that, guys. Sorry, we're just gonna break tradition and also follow tradition.
We have to actually rank this shit. We can't just say go watch it because it's a laugh.
Yeah.
We have to actually put some thought.
We have to do the work. We're professional Iowa Film Critic Association critics, so.
Okay.
Well, okay, so bronze is the middle. Bronze is like, it's okay. You don't have to see it.
This ain't no.
I would say at the very least it's silver. I don't know if it's higher than that though. That's my thing.
Oh my god. So when we start talking about the top two
Mm-hmm.
ranks, we start asking ourselves the question, and we've done this a couple of times: is this must see? Is this something that everybody needs to watch? And I don't think it's something that everybody needs to watch. I think it has a shit ton of appeal to certain moviegoers and and enjoyers of certain genres. I think the work that goes into this is top fucking tier because it makes me amazingly uncomfortable, but it's also one of the most fun times I've had watching a movie. And that balance is hard to do. That is hard to maintain. So I absolutely want to give James Gunn credit for maintaining that balancing act. But I don't think it's something that everybody needs to see. And so I'm a little hesitant to give it a gold, but I want to because of the respect I have for the work it does.
So, how I break it down. I know we're getting very deep into the ranking system, but we also have some time to kill. So, platinum is off the table, I think, because
No.
I love this movie, but platinum is like the top tier. Like this has depth and meaning beyond most films. It's something that should be used in classes and lectures and whatnot. No,
Platinum I see as generally like actually informing the way I think about life
yeah,
in some aspects.
gold to me, because we put Jurassic Park on this level for gold. For me, it's like it's classic cinema. It's something that's just gonna be worth your time no matter what. And it might have a certain niche appeal, but overall, it's still worth your time. Trying to have a distinction between that and silver's tough because I don't want to say silver's worse. I mean, it is, but it's not like it's fundamentally a whole lot worse. It's still something we recommend. I'm just trying to think of like why we wouldn't recommend it higher.
Yeah. This one's hard, man. This one's really tough. This one's very tough.
How about this? How about this? How about this? If you are a horror aficionado, if you are someone who likes weird, goofy, gross things like this is probably going to be a goal for you because this is definitely that kind of stuff. It's that kind of jam, and I'd say James Gunn hits the nail on the head for the genre, and I would love to see him take a whack at it and really knock it out of the park. If we're talking just pure film making, pure cinema, I'd probably say more of a silver. It's got that B movie schlocky vibe to it, and it's not like it's not good, but I think it's got a limit on the ceiling of how deep it's going to go, or I guess a floor on how deep it's going to go. And there are certainly deeper films that are definitely doing a lot more with what they got than this does. Is it bad? No, but I do think it could do more with a bit more cooking time.
I don't know how to make this movie better.
Uh,
But I agree that the aims of this movie are not particularly deep. So
and maybe it doesn't need to be.
Right. I don't think it needs to be. I don't think it needs to say something fundamental about the world or human relationships. I don't think it needs to do all of that. I think it aimed to be the pinnacle of schlocky B-movie horror, and it does it. And it fucking knocks it out of the park. Like, it called it shot, and then like Babe Ruth, it knocked it the fuck out of the park. It's self-referential, it's funny, it really hits the mark that it's trying to hit, and it pushes beyond that a little bit, but it's not trying to say something deep about life. And so like you said, it's kind of there's a bit of a floor as to how deep it can go. But I think I'm gonna agree with your split rating there. If you are a horror fan, this is absolutely a gold. This is a strong gold for horror fans. Otherwise, if you're just a normal moviegoers, it's a silver. It's definitely gonna push you into some uncomfortable places, but it's also gonna make you laugh your ass off.
Absolutely. I'm going back to our review scoring guidelines to see what the difference is. I think we're going to lock into what we got, but I just want to see. So it says here, gold, our second highest rank and given to films we believe everyone should see, but certainly aren't required rating of the platinum level. These films are generally classics that will stand the test of time, yada yada yada. Silver, our third highest rank, is handed out to films, shows, and games where they were fairly good and you would be fine enjoying this level of entertainment. We basically say it wouldn't hurt to see these products in question. Most things here are fine enough, but don't leave enough of impression to break the gold mold.
This is it's weird. This is a weird one. It's a gold with an asterisk. I feel like it's a gold with an asterisk because it's more than a silver to me, but it's so niche in what it's doing that I don't feel comfortable giving it a full solid gold. It's like naming Anakin Skywalker to the council but not giving him the rank of master. Do you know what I mean?
Man, I don't want to do that to this film. That's like such an asshole thing to do.
It just felt so good doing it. Like that was the perfect use.
No, it was. It really was. I'd say we lock the ranks we have in, but I do think I want to go back and clarify what silver and gold and all those are going to be going forward, because I think the initial things we wrote up were quick and dirty, and I would like to clarify it a bit better.
No, I think that's good. Cheers to you, James Gunn, for writing a body horror movie that actually made us really think about how we rank movies. As the Iowa Film Critics Association, you have made our association that much stronger, and for that we salute you, sir.
Guys, you have to know that the jokes become too real when Ryan's now telling the joke.
I'm supposed to be the straight man of this duo. No.
So thank you for joining us this week. Next week, you will be getting to listen to us talk about the Suicide Squad, actually, if the schedule holds out correctly. If not, it might be super. I don't know what it's going to be, but you'll have to find out next week after the credits.
Bye.